It all comes down to this. I think in a 6-game series, the winner of the 2021 World Series Championship will be Hey everybody, welcome back to another video here on the Atlantic channel. Today, as you can see by the title, and as we know at the time of recording, there is less than 24 hours to go before opening day. First games are at 1 p.m. on April 1st. And I'm going to give you guys my predictions of how the MLB 21 season will play out. I want to clarify that there are no award races in this video, just standings and just who I think is going to win each playoff series. Just want to clarify that. If you guys want to see an award races video, comment down below and like the video just so I know you guys want to see it. And without further ado, let's jump into it. So I'm going to start off in the American League. I'm going to give you guys my division winners and who I think is going to win each of the wildcard spots and who's going to host. So starting off in the American League East. As we know, the Rays won the division last year, went all the way to the World Series, and almost took down the Los Angeles Dodgers. Very well could have if Blake Snell doesn't come out in Game 6. I still think the Dodgers won that series ultimately. But the Rays took a huge step back, losing Blake Snell to the Padres, Charlie Morton to us, and they lost Hunter Renfroe to their rival Boston Red Sox. I think the Rays are taking a step back. The Blue Jays took a huge step up in signing George Springer, Marcus Semien, Kirby Yates. They didn't really add enough to that starting rotation yet. I think they're going to have to get another acquisition to be top-notch up there with the Yankees. So just because of that, I think the Yankees, especially if they're healthy, are going to win the AL East. Now moving on to the American League Central. As we know, it's pretty much a two-man show over there. The Indians, trying to blow it up. They traded Lindor, traded Clevenger at the deadline last year. Shane Bieber might be on the way out soon because they don't like to pay their players there. It looks like they're on another upcoming rebuild as the drought of World Series title victories get closer to 100 years. So because of that, as we know, the Royals and Tigers are still in their rebuilds and aren't making very much progress. So I think it's come down to the Twins and White Sox in that division. And while the White Sox did lose Eloy Jimenez for 5 to 6 months, and that is terrible to hear for them, I still think that they can win the division. The Twins don't have as much pitching as the White Sox do. They went out, the White Sox went out and acquired Lance Lynn this offseason. They kept Keuchel. They still got Lucas Giolito. They kept most of their pen intact. I believe they also added another closer to the pen. The name's slipping my mind at the moment, but I do know they added another all-star caliber bullpen guy to the pen if they did lose anybody. And even without Eloy Jimenez, I think they're still just enough better than the Twins to win the AL Central. So my AL Central victory is going to be very close. It might come down to something like a Game 163 or a clinch on the last day of the season. I think it'll be the Chicago White Sox. Now on to the American League West. Mike Trout's division where he can't do anything. It's unfortunate, but I think it's still going to be the same this year. While a lot of teams got a lot worse in that division, the A's gave up a lot. The Astros, of course, they made it to the ALCS last year after their bang-bang-bust cheating scandal. I still think they're going to take a huge step back. Verlander's not going to be back, and it doesn't look like Framber, their new ace, is not going to be playing. I think the Astros take a huge step back. The Mariners are just too young, and the Rangers are in complete rebuild mode at this point in time. So honestly, I think it comes down to a couple teams. If the Angels somehow go out and get another pitcher, I do think they'll be the winner of this division. But at this point in time, they just didn't get enough, which seems to be a constant yearly battle that the Angels have every offseason. So because of that, I think it's going to be the Oakland Athletics. But honestly, I think this division is going to be the weakest in all of baseball, weaker than the NL Central. And I think it could change at any point in time. So this might be the pick that I get wrong when I react to these picks later this year. So I gave you my division winners, and those are going to be the New York Yankees, Chicago White Sox, and I guess the Oakland Athletics. As I said, that one's more of a toss-up. Now here's my wildcard teams. I think the host of the wildcard game will be the Minnesota Twins. As I said, I think that division is going to come down to a very last week, maybe a Game 163 to win that division. I think the Twins will host the wildcard game at Target Field, which means they do have to win a playoff game. They haven't in quite some time, 20 years as of now. And I think the team that will be facing them will be the Toronto Blue Jays. As we know, they got a lot of acquisitions this offseason to go along with Bichette, Guerrero, Gurriel, and tons of guys out there that are so young and so promising. Hyun-Jin Ryu still got a couple years left in the tank. I think that they're probably the most likely to go get another type of pitcher to fill in that rotation later this year. I have that gut feeling that they will, especially with their division. They're facing the Red Sox, who are probably going to be mad this year. The Orioles don't look like they're making any progress at all. So I honestly think the Twins will host the wildcard game against the Toronto Blue Jays. So there's the American League. Let's move on to the National League side. So starting off with my division, the National League East. The Braves have currently won 3 straight division titles and looking to make a 4th, while the New York Mets are on a surging case to break that streak. They went out and got the best shortstop in baseball as of this point in time. Tatis might pass him here soon, but as of now, Francisco Lindor, the best shortstop in baseball. They fixed their catcher issue with James McCann, the backup to Yasmani Grandal. He's a very solid pickup. They still got Conforto. Pete Alonso's going to come back, I'm pretty sure. He'll be a lot better this year. Jeff McNeil, one of the best second basemen in baseball. Same with Ozzie Albies. Sorry, Rocco. And the list goes on and on. Their bullpen was very strugglesome last year, but they got Seth Lugo back in there. Diaz, Familia, and Batanza should all be healthy. They added Trevor May. This team's going to be scary, man. Of course, they got Cookie when he's back. Thor will be back, with Syndergaard and Marcus Stroman. That starting rotation is going to be killer. With Jacob deGrom leading it, I didn't even mention him, the best pitcher in baseball. I think the Mets will give the Braves a huge run for their money. And I didn't even mention the Washington Nationals. They had a crazy offseason too, acquiring Josh Bell from the Pittsburgh Pirates, who are completely blowing it up. Kyle Schwarber came over from Chicago. Brad Hand to fix that bullpen that has been a very struggles in the last couple of years, especially that World Series run for them. And Victor Robles should be back playing a lot more this year, and they still kept Brian Zimmerman, the longtime National, on the bench. So I believe this Washington Nationals team will be very good, and if they were in the National League Central, I think they'd have a very good opportunity to win that division. It wouldn't be quite as hard as the National League East is such a struggle in there, but I think that they do fall short. And for the Philadelphia Phillies, they look like they're on the decline already. Yes, I know, they just signed JT Realmuto back after they weren't able to, it looked like earlier in the offseason. Yes, I know, Bryce Harper still has 10 plus years left on his contract. But what are they doing to round out the roster? Rhys Hoskins is a good player, but I think he's a little overrated. Alec Boehm isn't there quite yet. Yes, they kept Didi and Segura, but I believe one of them could be upgraded. Andrew McCutchen's not getting any younger out there. I believe they don't really have a lot of outfield depth. I know they have a couple of people coming back from injury, but the pitching rotation and the bullpen is what's scariest. You guys know how bad the Phillies bullpen was last year, and I don't think they did much to improve it. They definitely improved it, but they didn't do enough in my opinion. And their starting rotation didn't change whatsoever. They lost Arrieta, who was not very good in his tenure in Philadelphia, but they still got Aaron Nola, Zach Wheeler, and who knows how the rest of that rotation is going to pan out. Who's going to stay hot, who's going to stay cold, who will rise up, who will fall down. It's just a messy situation up there in Philadelphia, and I think it'll be another one of those underwhelming years. And to the surprise of baseball last year, the Miami Marlins, as people know, they beat COVID themselves last year. Shout out Foolish Baseball. They did so much in the 2019 offseason to bolster that offense, getting Corey Dickerson, helping Brian Anderson out. Miguel Rojas stepped up. Jesus Aguilar came in. They had so many guys that stepped up so much for the Marlins last year. Sixto Sanchez even pitched really well in a couple of those matchups. And it looks like that rotation is starting to fawn together for them. But I still think in a 162-game season, they're not going to be quite as well. I could see them placing ahead of one team, which I'll get to in just a sec. I do think there's a possibility where they don't place last place. But unfortunately, Marlins fans, I think this might be your last year where you're kind of in the dumps. So after recapping each of the NL East teams, as I like to do with my own division, I do think it's going to be a very close race. I think that these teams play 3 series in September. They're going to be so crucial for each ball club, but I do think ultimately the Braves do win their 4th straight division title. Maybe by only 2.5, 3.5 games. It won't be by much at all, but I think the Braves do win their 4th straight National League East title and clinch another playoff berth. Now that I'm done rambling with the National League East, let's move on to the National League Central. I think we can tell it's kind of the Cardinals' division to lose at this point. The Cubs look like they're 1 year away from blowing it all up. The Brewers did a lot, but another one of those teams where they still need a lot more pitching. The Reds, of course, lost the Cy Young Award winner, and if their offense continues to be underwhelming, as good as it's on paper this next year, they're going to have some times where they're not doing too hot. And the Pirates, I think we know, are clearly the worst team in baseball as of now. Brian Hayes, Brian Reynolds, they have a couple of nice building blocks there. Jacob Stallings, I think, is pretty young, but they're not going to do much this year. So when whoever wins that division, if they can take care of, their 19 matchups versus the Pittsburgh Pirates, they're going to be well on their way. And I think that team is going to be Nolan Arenado's new home club, the St. Louis Cardinals. I do think that they'll clinch a playoff spot, but I don't think they'll go very far. We'll get to that in a little bit. And now for the National League West, the division that's such a two-headed monster. You got the San Diego Padres, who did so well last year, weren't quite able to knock off the Dodgers, along with my Braves and the Rays, and did a lot to add to that pitching rotation that they didn't have in that NLDS series. And of course, the Dodgers got better. They kept Justin Turner. They lost Jock Peterson, but they kept all of their youth. They brought back Turner, and they brought in the Cy Young Award winner. Trevor Bauer, Walker Buehler, and Clayton Kershaw as a 3? That is ridiculous. David Price, as I mentioned, he will be coming back, and he might even be in the pen this year. You got Jansen coming back. You kept Kelly. You kept Trinan. That Dodgers team is still going to be scary. They lost Kike Hernandez, but Chris Taylor were feeling fine. If not, Gavin Lux. They kept Will Smith. They still got Austin Barnes. It's just so talented out there. And out in LA. And I hate to say it, but I think they do win the National League West. But I do think the Padres are going to be just as good as we think, but I don't think they'll be good enough to beat the Dodgers, and I'll explain why in just a sec. Tatis got a huge extension this offseason. Manny Machado proved his contract was a little bit more worth it this offseason. I still think there's more proving he can do, but they kept their core. They kept Austin Nola. They still got Myers. They still got Pham. They added Joe Musgrove. They added Blake Snell and Yu Darvish in a 4 to 8 hour period to go along with Paddock. They'll get Clevenger back next year. They added Mark Melancon, who was one of the better pitchers in the league last year in the Atlanta bullpen. I think this team is still going to be very good and probably one of the top teams in the league, but I do think because the Dodgers are ahead of them, they will fall short. The San Francisco Giants look like they'll be a little bit better this year, and I'm talking about them for you, Kev Bradell. Shout out to you, my guy. Sub to him down below. I don't think that they'll be quite good enough to reach for anything this year, but I think this one could be a mediocre year for the San Francisco Giants. So getting back to the American League side, if you guys remember, I put the American League division winners as the Yankees, White Sox, and Athletics. That one is more subject to change. Who knows how this division pans out? I think it's going to be so up and down. And I think the wildcard teams will be the Toronto Blue Jays going to face the Twins in Minneapolis. I do think this is where the Twins finally get it done. Brios, Maeda, whoever's pitching out there is going to have a hell of a game against Hyunjin Ryu. The offense is going to have to step up in front of their home park, but I do think they do throw down Hyunjin Ryu and the Toronto Blue Jays, sending them home after a one-game stint. The Twins do finally break that playoff streak. They take down Hyunjin Ryu on Wild Card night, and they go on to face the New York Yankees in the American League DS, and the streak is finally over. Getting into the division series, you got the New York Yankees hosting the Minnesota Twins in a best-of-5, and same for the other side of the bracket, you got the White Sox hosting the Athletics. I think the winner of the Yankees-Twins series will be the Bronx. I think the Bronx Bombers do move on in a 5-game series. I think the Twins finally give them a run for their money. The Yankees have to come back and win it in Yankee Stadium, but the Twins finally get some respect. Even though they don't get past their Yankees, I do think they win a couple playoff games, but ultimately the Yankees are just too tough. Their pitching rotation got better. If they stay healthy, it'll be a huge problem. If Gary Sanchez can learn to hit again, oh my god, this team is going to be so good, and I think they move on to the American League Championship Series. Now you got the Chicago White Sox taking on the Oakland Athletics in a 5-game series from the South Side. I do think even though the Athletics are in a weak division, whether it's the Astros, whether it's the Angels, whether it's the Athletics, I don't see the Mariners or Rangers doing much this year. But whether it's one of those first 3 teams named, I think the White Sox sweep them and move on to the American League Championship Series. And now you got the New York Yankees getting home field advantage for a 7-game series against the Chicago White Sox. Even without Eloy Jimenez, and who knows, if he's ahead of recovery, I could see Eloy Jimenez coming back late in the playoffs. I mean, I don't know if he'd be eligible for the postseason roster or not. That'll be later to see down the line. But if he's ahead of schedule and he's back, that might be hurtful for the Yankees. The Yankees have a couple pitching questionable spots in the rotation. They're giving shots to both Taillon and Kluber, who have been very shaky the last few years. Of course, Kluber getting very up there in age, and Taillon still younger, but hasn't pitched very much in his career. But when he has, he's looked solid. They're going to need both of those guys to be on their game this series and not to be their injured version of themselves, because Severino and Garrett Cole won't be able to win a 7-game series on their own. I do think this is going to be one of the best series we've seen in modern-day baseball, and the Yankees are going to be looking like they're on their way back to another World Series for the first time in 12 years, which seems like a hell of a long time, but I do ultimately think the White Sox win it in 7 games. So now we know the American League winner will be the Chicago White Sox. Let's go check in on the National League side. To catch you guys up, here is what I have for the division winners and the wildcard teams. For the National League, I have the Dodgers winning the West, the Cardinals winning the Central, my Atlanta Braves winning the East, and the New York Mets hosting the wildcard game against the San Diego Padres. Now, starting off on the wildcard game, I think this wildcard game is deserving of a 5-game series on its own. Jacob deGrom versus Blake Snell, and Fernando Tatis versus Francisco Lindor, Pete Alonso, Manny Machado. The names go on in this series. I think this will be a super fun game to watch if it happens, and I honestly think the Mets win this game with Jacob deGrom in their home field, but it honestly could be flipped. If this game was in Petco Park and I decided the Padres were hosting it, I think the Padres win with Blake Snell. But just because I think it's in Citi Field, Jacob deGrom is going to be pitching that night, I think the Mets do win this game and move on to the National League Division Series to take on the Los Angeles Big Bad Dodgers. So now we have the National League Division Series set up between the 2-seed Atlanta Braves and the 3-seed St. Louis Cardinals, very familiar to 2019. On the other side of the bracket, you have the 1-seed Dodgers taking on the wildcard winner New York Mets. Starting on the 2-3 side, you got the Braves and the Cardinals, and I do think the Braves ultimately get revenge in this series. I think we win it in 4. I don't know if Wainwright's going to be even as good as he was in 2018 or 19, and he was still shaky those couple of years. He had a better season in the 60-game year, but I don't think the Cardinals have what it takes to beat us again. We got even better. We got Marcell Ozuna from them, who was a huge factor in that series. Who knows if Nolan Arenado will keep it together for a full season, not in cores, and if he's healthy or not. But I do think the Braves win this series in 4 games and once again move on to the National League Championship Series. And it'll finally be a series where us Atlanta fans don't have to stress because we didn't choke quite yet. And on the other side of the bracket, I do think the Mets are a great first-round matchup for the Dodgers. Even if they still had a mediocre offense, that Mets pitching staff of DeGrom, Carrasco, Stroman, Thor, and Peterson, that could be a great 5-game series because half of them wouldn't even have to pitch. It'd be DeGrom and Carrasco every couple days. But ultimately, I do think the Dodgers are too good. I think the Dodgers do win this series in 5 games because the Mets rotation is going to be able to keep themselves in the game. I do think the offense shows up, but I do ultimately think the Mets get knocked out in the division series. So I do think the Dodgers and Braves rematch in the National League Championship Series, which I'd love to see. And if Mike Soroka can be healthy, that would be so crucial for the Braves. Adding Charlie Morton for his playoff pitching, Ian Anderson and Max Fried had stellar outings against the Dodgers last year. Drew Smyly, who's been in the Dodgers division for so many years now, has a chance to go against them in a 7-game series. As I said earlier, I know the Dodgers got better. I know the Braves blew a 3-1 lead last year, but something just tells me, and I don't say this often, I've seen heartbreak, y'all. I've seen heartbreak with my Falcons, with my Braves, with my Hawks. I'm not a Georgia fan. My mom is. She's seen it. And this year just feels different. It's not the same feeling. I honestly think the Braves do take down the Dodgers. It takes 7 games, but I do think the Braves go into LA for Game 7, get their revenge, and move on to the World Series, and oh, what a glorious feeling it will be. So the World Series will end up being the Chicago White Sox and the Atlanta Braves. It all comes down to this. I think in a 6-game series, the winner of the 2021 World Series Championship will be the Atlanta Braves. Yes, sir. This is our year for the A. It's going to be a hell of a fight, but this team is built. This team is ready. It's time to break the curse once and for all. We were so close on the doorstep last year. I know the biased comments are coming. I know the 3-1 leads are coming. I just have this feeling, y'all. It's a different gut feeling, and it's just a vibe around Atlanta. This team is built for success. They get Soroka back next year. I pray to God he's healthy. Austin Riley has a chance to break out of his slump. But ultimately, I think this team is built for a World Series championship. You added Charlie Morton. You added Drew Smyly. A great lefty and a great playoff pitcher to go along with Max Fried, Ian Anderson, and hopefully Mike Soroka. Freddie Freeman won the National League MVP last year. You get Ozzie Albies back for a full season, and even in his short stint in playoff run, he did great. Dansby Swanson is going to keep building on what he did. Travis d'Arnaud still under contract. Marcell Ozuna, while being in the field, isn't a great option for him. He will still be a huge bat. Christian Pache, one of the best rookies in baseball, has a chance to shine this year. And of course, Ronald Acuna Jr. over in right field. Oh man, this will be a series. But I think this is the year. The Braves get it done. We're going to be World Series champions, and let's go celebrate later this year. But thank you guys for watching the video. If you made it to this point in the video, make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe down below. Let me know, guys, what your guys' opinion on my picks and what's wrong and what your certain picks are. I hope to see you guys soon. Another video will be up soon doing my fantasy baseball draft, showing the highlights, and I'll see you guys next time. So peace out. Go Braves. Blake out.